Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time, except when we are on Intermission. Because this month, for Intermission number 9, we are covering The Heavenly Sword by Alice Poon. We will be covering chapters 1 through 18 today. But Laura, before we dive into it, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I've been watching The Boys.
I'm sorry.
This is Let's start with a downer.
Let's start with Hannah immediately being like, I'm sorry at what you're reading, watching, or enjoying. A show Hannah famously sat watching one day and thought, do I have to finish this? And the answer was no. And Laura, the answer was yes for her. So.
You know what? It's a bummer of a show. But I will say I do find it fascinating on multiple grounds, honestly, because like the cultural impact of this show is fascinating to me, and the way that fans interact with each other and the fandom and the show itself and the comics, like any kind of media related to this, and the actors themselves is wild to me. I'm just fascinated by everything surrounding this show, honestly, because I think that it does make a lot of commentary on our social and cultural climate.
Yes.
And I think so much of it is like weirdly interpreted or misinterpreted. And that is very interesting to me. And so I'm just like weirdly watching like reaction videos to the episodes of season 5, and like I found one creator who is a therapist who is like breaking down all of the different characters from The Boys. And that has been the most interesting to me, because I'm like, you know what? A therapist could make bank diagnosing anything with Homelander. But it's just been interesting to kind of see how a lot of fans are interpreting the show and its characters and different plot lines. I am interested to see where they go with this final season and what happens, what the final take is on Homelander, on the final showdown, on Billy Butcher, on all of them. I think the one thing everyone can agree on is that Jensen Ackles looks amazing, and everyone will forever love him. He's like a villain, and he's an antagonist of sorts in The Boys, but he's very hard to dislike, and
he's a very charismatic man. Like he really just is. I mean, he was on Supernatural for years and years,
forever.
I didn't watch all of Supernatural because there were too many ghosts. I've thought about trying it again and seeing like how scared of ghosts I still am via that show, because I think it would be a good litmus test for me. But I do remember him from Smallville, and he was very charismatic on Smallville, and I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly,
kind of one of these actors that can do anything, because as I was like watching clips of The Boys, I started seeing like more interviews with Jensen Ackles coming up too, and then there were just random clips of him showing up at karaoke bars and singing. He's a phenomenal singer. And I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Some people are just God's favorite, that they get to they get to be good at everything. Like him, Jonathan Bailey, like stop it.
You don't get everything. But no, Jensen Ackles is a dream among men. I'm pretty sure like he ended up playing someone evil on Smallville, if I'm remembering correctly. But they also had him paired with like Clark Kent's main love interest on that show, because they were like,
he was also on Dark Angel, I learned. I don't know anything about this. I loved him. He was talking about how he did not get along with Jessica Alba.
Really?
Yeah. And he said, I'll tell her that to her face. I've told her that to her face many times, that she was miserable to work with. And he was kind of explaining the situation. It kind of sounds like to me almost like she had a crush on him. It was just giving him a really hard time. And he was just like, this girl is being a jerk. And
she was incredibly young on that show. Like, not to be a Jessica Alba stan, because I do think Jessica Alba should probably answer for some crimes. I'm not sure which ones, but like I think she probably has them. But I will say on that show, she started it when she was like 18 or 19, I want to say. And she started dating her 35-year-old co-star, and they were like engaged. And like then they broke up, and like he went on to work for NCIS, and it was like a 2-season. So I wouldn't be surprised if she had like a workplace crush on Jensen Ackles and was not acting professionally as a young woman.
It sounds like Jensen
Yes.
like has respect for her as like a talented person. Like
Yes.
he said like she's very talented and everything, and he said she is very professional, but he said she was hard to work with, and
Hmm.
she gave me a really hard time. And then he said, but we did become close at one point, and he said she would like invite me over so she wouldn't have to be alone.
Mm.
And then the person interviewing him was like, so she was inviting you over because she didn't want to be alone. And he was like, yeah, we were friends. She didn't want to be alone. And the guy was like, Jensen, so I think Jessica Alba might have had a crush on you and was inviting you over, and you might have missed that. And he was like, she was always a jerk to me. And it was kind of funny because it's like, well, that also could have been a thing that she did have a
Yeah.
crush on you, Jensen.
No.
And who wouldn't have a crush on you?
Of
Like,
course. No, he
wow.
was on season 2, which FYI, we've talked about the show enough this year.
Hmm.
I looked it up on how we could potentially watch the show, and the answer is we have
Hmm.
to borrow the DVDs from my older sister because
Oh,
it does not
she owns it.
exist on
Okay.
streaming, but she owns the DVDs and she was supposed to bring them to me so I could rewatch it, and then I forgot. But you live near-ish to her, so we could
So
get
I'll
you
just
the
go binge it with her.
Yeah, you could go binge it with my sister, and then we could cover a show that no one can watch. Or you could
Right.
just watch it and talk about it
So
on the
you just have
podcast
to
of like,
trust all of our thoughts on it because you'll never be able to see it again.
I looked it up. They're like $120 on Amazon to buy these
Wow.
DVDs. Like they're not made anymore. We cannot get
Well, and the
them.
question is too now, anytime I go to like buy any sort of DVD or season of any show, I'm like, is this a bootleg? Because that is a
Yeah.
big concern.
No, totally fair. No, my sister bought them during the original run of them. My sister has a very extensive DVD collection, and I
Hmm.
recently took a chance and I was like, "Do you still have your copy of Dark Angel?" And she was like, "Matter of fact, I do." And I was like, "Great, let me
Amazing.
borrow it." So I want to rewatch it to see like does it hold up? And I'm sure the
Yeah.
answer is no, but
I mean,
then you could potentially borrow it after
very
me, and
little
then we
holds
can
up.
get it back to my sisters.
Hmm. Very little
Thank
holds
you
up
to
after
my
that.
older sister and her DVD collection.
Yeah. We should actually try to make that happen because you've talked about that show quite a bit to the point that I am interested. And now
Yeah.
Jensen Ackles
Jensen
is in it. So
Ackles,
I'm
yeah.
like, well,
He
I guess I better consume it
he's
because
actually a
I,
very interesting character in season 2.
is he?
Because like season 1 is kind of like the overarching theme, and like small spoilers, I'm not going to spoil the entire show, but like the first season, she's always looking for one of the boys she ran away with. His name was Zach.
Okay.
And there's this whole like, does she love Zach or does she love this other man who was 35 and dated her in real life? But then, like in season 2, they bring on Jensen Ackles and a couple of other characters who are like way more interesting. And
Hmm.
he is like one of the bioengineered people. So he like plays a very
Okay.
interesting role. So he is a fascinating person who I've followed quite a bit of his career with, apparently.
Well,
So,
you mentioned like Supernatural and wanting to watch that. I've also wanted to watch it. I think I may have watched like an episode or two, just like offshoots of them when they've been
yeah.
playing, but I've never like watched multiple episodes in a row or anything. Not enough to like really get into it, but I feel like I've revolved around that show enough where I'm like, I know I would enjoy this, and it's
Yeah.
likely something that I would become deeply involved with and like
I feel
fall
like
in
you
love
would
with Jared
become like
Padalecki and
you would be the
Jensen
person who
Ackles.
was like, I've been reading the comics, and here's a
Yes.
thing I like about the comics. It's like your next Star
I would go
Wars. So,
incredibly deep on it and
yeah,
is what I fear.
yeah.
And so I'm like, do I need another fandom at this point? It's hard to say yes, but it's likely yes.
Maybe
But
we'll start covering Supernatural after
Supernatural,
we
yeah.
finish. We could cover it on the podcast on our Patreon, and that could be
There we
after
go.
we
We'll just
finish
cover
Dresden
all of Jensen
Files.
Ackles' work. So,
Yeah.
like, I will say though, like getting back to the boys, like I think so he is fascinating. I do think there's a lot of fascinating characters in that show,
Hmm.
and I am curious to see what they decide to kind of do with everyone because there's a lot of different ways they could go with these things, and I think they're in a situation now that no matter what they do, they're going to leave people unsatisfied in some way.
Yeah.
And the fandom has become so toxic that I
Right.
think people are not going to be happy no matter what they do. Um, unless, and I'm not going to even mention it, but unless a certain thing happens that will likely be really bad
Mm,
if they go that direction. But I think that might be the only thing that satisfies a lot of the toxicity that exists in the fandom.
okay.
So yeah, it's interesting, but good memes have come out of the boys. So there there's that. We've gotten really good memes.
Well,
But
thank God for that because you know what the world needed more of?
memes.
Memes.
We
So,
did need memes. We always need memes. But I do think it's a show that I find interesting. I think if you can handle a lot of the darker themes and things
hmm
that are happening in it and handle it, I should say if you can look at this from a critical lens
hmm
and be able to use some media literacy to interpret what's happening in the show, I think that that's maybe the best case scenario. I do question a lot of the things that happen in the show, whether or not they actually are funny. And you and I had a chat about this off mic about like whether or not darker themes and things, situations can be considered funny. And I think that The Boys rides the line a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
it depends on the person, it depends on the situation that's being portrayed, and also like how they handle things. So honestly, there were a lot of things, and I understand completely why you dropped off the show because there were a lot of
Yeah.
things depicted in this show that I felt very uncomfortable with and was really considering not watching this last season. And so I'm kind of going into this with a little trepidation because I am worried a little bit about what they're going to do because season 4 was rough and I was
Yeah.
ready to quit too. So, but I'm I'm trying to finish. I'm trying to finish the show.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I've been watching The Boys for better or worse. I
For
still love
better
Carl
or
Urban.
worse.
I will forever have a crush on Carl Urban, I think. He's so hot. I love him so much.
That's amazing.
And just hearing his oi all the time, it never gets old. It
Laura's
never
like,
gets old.
that's what keeps me, okay? That's my
Jensen
media
Ackles
literacy.
and Billy Butcher, Jensen Ackles and Carl Urban. I'm
I
here for
mean,
them. Like,
at
watch
the end of
anything
the
with them.
day, Jack Quaid did find love on that show. So, and I'm a
Yeah,
big fan of Jack Quaid as well. I
you know what?
really
There's a
like
lot of
his
Nepo babies in
energy.
that show,
Yeah.
and they're actually some of the best Nepo babies, honestly. I don't
Oh
know.
God. That's my favorite. My current favorite joke going around online right now. There's a TikTok. Vincent D'Onofrio's son, he was recently on Daredevil and he's getting interviewed and he's like, yeah, me and so and so Hoffman, so Philip Seymour Hoffman's son. He's like, we
Uh-huh.
have a joke where we're like, we gotta do something about these Nepo babies. And then if people are like, you guys are Nepo babies, like, if one of your parents is dead, it doesn't count.
Well, also Bryan Cranston's daughter is on The Pit. She's
Oh yeah,
amazing. There
exactly.
are some really talented Nepo babies.
Again, Nepo babies, it's about the fact that you have a leg up, and we should always recognize where we get our own leg
Ben
up in the
Stiller, are you
life.
listening
And
right now? We like you.
we like you. It's
We
just
just want you
saying,
to acknowledge that your parents are very famous and funny.
as two white women, I do recognize that I have a lot of privilege in this
We have
world. I
lots of
also
privilege.
recognize I was a first generation college student in my immediate family with my siblings. Some of my stuff was easier because I held older sisters, and some things like law school was more difficult because I did not have anyone who knew what law school was like. That's all it's talking about. It's talking about personal experience and what you bring to the table. So just remember that, Ben Stiller.
I will point it out though, like, come on, Ben Stiller. Like,
You're freaking
Ben,
Ben Stiller. You were in
like
like heavyweights in the 90s. You were making all these movies. Like, come on,
Ben,
my guy.
your
It's just not a good look.
your parents are iconic. Like,
So,
they're
uh,
iconic. We
if
love
you
them
want
so much,
if
and
you want
they're
an
iconic.
interesting look at Ben Stiller, you should listen to the episode of Unspooled with Paul Scheer
Mm,
on Reality
okay,
Bites because they were talking about like how Ben Stiller was very serious on that film and it was all a bunch of like
interesting.
very famous actors and actresses because he was like the director of that. So he was like
Hmm.
starring and directing and doing all this stuff and he was very self-serious. And then you had like all of these younger kids who were actors and they all were like a little bit too cool for it. And it was you could tell that there was a lot of stress on set because of the different energies being brought to the table. So I think sometimes Ben Stiller is someone who is incredibly serious and likes being serious.
I like hearing about certain actors' vibes that they bring into projects too, because people have made comments about like Andy Samberg, how he is very serious on set.
Yeah.
Like he's a very funny person, but he takes his work incredibly seriously. And
hmm
he's not the one that they say is like always making jokes on set and stuff like that. He's like deep in it, like trying to come
Yeah.
up with how can we improve the writing? How can we do this? How can I do this better? What if we did this instead? And there are some people that kind of just walk in and they're like, I'm gonna have fun today. And
Yep.
I think that's amazing that we have people that are like, and honestly, I think that makes a project better when you have people
Yes.
coming from different perspectives like that, and you have the people that are able, if you're able to work together well. I think it's great
Hmm.
to have those different types of people working together on a project. But I think it's always
Agreed.
interesting to find out like who are the actors that are like kind of taking things more seriously, who are the ones, and it's especially like a little bit jarring to me when you find out that it is a Ben Stiller and Andy Samberg who are very serious about the
Yes.
work.
I think I do find that fascinating. So it was a very good episode of Unspooled, and I highly
I thought you were
recommend
going to say
going
the
listening to
Severance
it.
podcast because my husband and I
Oh
listened to all
no.
of the Severance podcast and we really liked that. And I thought there was a lot of interesting insight from Ben Stiller in the Severance podcast too.
Although no one has become a bigger fan of Kumail Nanjiani during the Taskmaster episodes than my sister-in-law, who found out he does an
Really?
X-Files podcast, and she's a huge
Kumail is so
X-Files
fun.
fan. Like,
I
so,
really love Kumail. Although I will say, so we just watched the most recent episode, episode 4,
mhm.
and I do think it's the beginning of his villain era because they're now Greg is like just giving people. He's like, we're not following the
He,
rules anymore.
yeah,
And I
he
was
said
like,
like we're not
damn
going to
you,
follow
Greg,
the
you were so
rules.
hard on that damn potato thing
I
in
know.
previous seasons, and now you're just being a softie.
I think sometimes he waits for the energy of the show and he figures out how he can kind of become a naysayer. And I do wonder if this season he was like, I'm just going to go with whatever I feel like and see how people react.
So
I
here's
think he
my
likes
thing
keeping
too.
people on their toes.
I do think that's a huge part of it, and I think maybe people like Kumail too much. But he was
Yeah.
just like, you like this guy? No, we're gonna screw him over.
Hmm.
Like he's not gonna do well. And I think that it's a different energy from Jason, where
Yes.
like he kind of tried to do that with Jason a little bit, I feel like.
Yes.
But Jason at the same time was like, F you, man. You are losing America right now. And it was just very much Jason Mantzoukas'
What I
energy of just like,
do,
I don't care. And Kumail is very much a different type of person where he's like, I
yes.
deeply care about this and I am like breaking inside because I've been following the rules and doing everything right and
Hmm.
should have won tasks. And you're just like, the rules don't matter.
Yep. So, no, very funny. But I do think that there's a different energy. And I think Greg is a very smart man. So I think he's often
Yes.
playing to what the room needs the most to keep things unstable and to keep people
Hmm.
questioning. So, and
He does like chaos, honestly.
he probably does feel a little bit bad about telling that man that after seeing how many times he has to pull that egg out of his hat, he probably does feel a little bit guilty about being like, no points, you don't get anything.
That
Like,
was heartbreaking, honestly.
oh,
Also, like,
so upsetting.
what a baller move of Alex to be like, we're
Oh
going
my
to announce this
God.
right in the first minute of the episode,
But he's
where we're
still
like,
making him do it. He said he was
yeah.
still going to do it, and he's done
Mhm.
it. So it's wild. Yeah.
He's been pulling that egg out of his hat, out of his crotch, out of all sorts of places. He has a little egg on a chain protector,
Yep.
and yeah, he's Joel's doing it all. I still think Joanna is my favorite.
Oh yeah, 100%. Joanna
I
is the funniest.
and this is coming. I really love Kumail, but I kind of want Joanna to win. And
Yeah.
I just feel a little bit bad for Kumail after this fourth episode where I'm like, Greg, you're beginning Kumail's villain story.
It's I also think Greg always dislikes when people try to get him to like get on their side. And so he's like, no, I'm not going to
Yes.
do that because you tried to convince me. And now he gets a point.
He does have a little
Like,
bit of rebellious
yeah.
younger child energy.
I
Where
don't know
it's
what
like,
you're talking
Greg,
about. I
Greg.
don't double down on anything ever in my life, Laura. What are you talking about? Like,
If somebody tries to get you to do something, you're like, I absolutely hate that. And it's like,
I
no,
absolutely could never do
it's like,
that in a million
you
years.
love chocolate chip cookies. And you're like, no, I've never eaten one in my life.
But
And
not
he's
one
like,
of those chocolate
okay.
chip cookies.
Oh, it's like, oh man. Greg does do that though.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
I've also been watching
100%.
Taskmaster, as it's clear. Um, but been enjoying that too. And then I have been reading Monster. I finished it actually. It's
Oh,
18
good.
volumes of Monster. It's this crime thriller manga written and illustrated by Naoki Urasawa, who I think was also the creator of Pluto, which I had only watched the TV series Pluto that was on Netflix, but
Okay.
uh, Naoki Urasawa is, I think, a very famous manga artist, writer who I think was involved with some Astro Boy things, if I'm remembering right. Listeners can correct me. I apologize if I'm getting this wrong, but I was recommended Monster by a friend online, and because I work at a library, it's been and we have a very good manga collection at this library. It's
Mm-hmm.
been very easy to, while I'm working, if I have down moments, to pick up a volume of manga, and it's easy to pick up and set down and as I'm working and helping patrons. So I was able to get through 18 volumes of this in the past couple weeks, and it is a really good manga, honestly, and one that a genre that I'm not used to seeing. I see more fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian
Yeah.
manga is what I have picked up more of. And this one is a crime thriller that is centering all around a lot of like the questions of who deserves to live, how do
Mm.
we decide morally what the best choices for a collective group are, how do we determine like who is good and who is bad, and what are the best decisions to make for ourselves and other people. And it starts off questioning these things from the get-go because we have a doctor who is faced with the choice of deciding whether or not he needs to follow the instructions from the hospital administrator to save a high profile person or to save a man who came in with an injury. And he initially follows the hospital administrator's orders and saves a high profile person. And then he sees the ramifications of doing this because the family of the man that he did not choose, who had come into the hospital before the high profile person, dies, and he is confronted by the grieving family of this person who
Mm.
died. So he's left with a lot of questioning of his choices to do that, and
Yeah.
what it means to provide care for people. And he's put in a similar situation and decides to go with his gut and decides that all lives are equal no matter what amount of privilege or standing we have. And he chooses to go against the hospital administrator's orders to choose to save another high profile person, and
Mm.
decides to save someone who is injured and is not a high profile person. And things go drastically different, and the person that he
Ooh.
saves ends up being a horrendous person, and then he questions his decision for a very long time. And we follow this Dr. Tenma on his journey to basically correct the mistakes that he feels that he is tied to because he
Interesting.
saved this person's life. And
That sounds really good.
I think this would be a really good, like, I would not normally recommend us covering a manga series. I think this would be a good one to cover on the
Oh, that's
podcast
fun.
because
Yeah.
it's not super long. It's not like it's 4,000 volumes like One Piece that we'd never be able to finish. I think that it has a fast enough plot that we could likely get through it quickly. And I think it has
Right.
enough like interesting, wild stuff happening that we would be like, what the heck? Why did this get involved here? And I think it would be kind of interesting to cover because it's considered like one of the best manga of all time.
Oh, wow.
And there's a lot of people that quote it as being their favorite manga. It's written by, like I said, a very iconic author within manga spaces who is known for being involved with Astro Boy and Pluto and everything. And so I think it'd be an interesting series to cover. And I think we could do it quickly too, because to read a few volumes of this manga, it would not take us long. We could do a few volumes per episode,
Per
honestly.
episode. Yeah. I mean,
And
I'm sure it will be one of those where it's like we're covering volumes
yeah,
1 and 2 or
but
like,
I
yeah.
I do think it would be an interesting series to cover just from the standpoint of, and I don't usually like thrillers,
Yeah.
but I think it would be an interesting one if we wanted to possibly cover a manga series
Try
at
it
some
out.
point, that it would be a cool one to dip our toes into.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious for you to just pick it up regardless of whether or not we cover it on the podcast or not, because I think that it's an interesting series.
Well,
But yeah,
as you
that's
know,
the
now
other
that you
thing that
brought it
I've
up,
been.
I can't read it.
That's
I'm
right. You hate
joking.
chocolate chip cookies. How could
I'm
I forget?
my dog often loves being under a blanket, but sometimes you'll try
Mhm.
to put the blanket on her and she will like jump on it and stare at you
Moves
like I
out.
have never wanted a blanket ever on me in my life. What are you talking
Yeah.
about? And I feel like that is very much the energy of like I have never wanted a chocolate chip cookie anywhere in my life.
No. Hate them. I hate chocolate chip cookies. Like generally well received item of food.
I definitely
Absolutely
didn't
not.
eat one today. So
Oh, also, I've been playing River Valley Glassworks. It's a really cute board game that you have these different like uh water creatures. Like there's a beaver and an otter and a alligator who all are players in this game. And I've been playing just the solo version of this, but you're collecting these jewels from these pieces of glass from the river and trying to build up your own collection of glass. And it's a very cute game and quick, fun. I really like it.
oh
So
good.
that's it, Hannah.
Well,
All you.
perfect. Well, speaking of beavers, I did read Eager, The Surprising Secret Life of Beavers and Why They Matter by Ben Goldfarb.
Yay.
I wanted to bring this to, I mentioned on the podcast a while ago that I was reading it for book club. We finally read it for book club. I talked to Laura a little bit about everything I learned about beavers, and she pretty much told me she had already learned them at the Midwest Beaver Conference, which I think
Yes.
was flagged in this as kind of an inspiration for him to write this book. Like he wrote an article on beavers and how important they were to
Hmm.
the infrastructure of America or even
Hmm.
Great Britain. And he was kind of like, and then everyone told me to write this book. And so I did it. And so I will say that this kind like there was a lot of jokes made and in my family about this book because it was one that like my book club honed in on and my sister-in-law kept being like I didn't recommend this book. Hannah asked me to read out loud the books I had read on Hoopla and this was one of them and every single woman in book club was like no, we're obviously reading the book on beavers.
Beavers.
And she was like he wrote this other book and he's an amazing writer and this other book but this one is specifically very much about beavers.
Can I
So I read
ask,
it.
this is maybe me like looking too much into the demographics of it. Is your book club primarily white women?
Yes, it is.
I knew it because here's here's the thing, listeners. As a white woman, if you were to tell me that there is a book about beavers or there is a book about anything else, I'm like, beavers. I don't need any more information.
Honestly, I don't have this. I don't know if this is because I'm a queer white woman that I was like, I didn't need to learn that much about beavers, but I did. And it
You
was
know what?
fun.
Queer white women
Like
sound off. I guarantee
at
they are,
me.
they are primarily more
Interested in
interested
beaver.
in beaver
But also,
nonfiction than
guys,
others.
don't at us with a bunch of beaver jokes about queer white women. Because
I mean, do not be homophobic. I'm just
yeah,
saying, I'm
but
just general
no.
interest.
But
I'm saying white women in general. I think queer or straight are generally queer. It's just a white women thing.
they
We have weird interests. We're
yeah, we do. Okay, I will say weird
we're
interest
into
fine.
beaver books.
This may be Hannah's hatred of chocolate chip cookies coming out, where I'm just like, I didn't need to know this much about beavers. I learned it and I had a good time. But it was a lot about beavers, and like that
Here's
is
the
what you
thing,
were
though,
getting.
Hannah. You are going to be able to bring up so many beaver topics in conversation now.
Well, I brought it up at work and no one seemed to be interested because we were talking. I was like, oh, there's like
Oh, you need a better
construction
workplace.
on the like on the roadway. It looks like they're putting in aqueducts. And I was like, oh, I just read this book on beavers and about aqueducts and how like beavers love aqueducts because it's the perfect place to build a dam. And everyone looked at me like I had simply lost my mind.
I, I'm going to just give you some career advice right now. You need to quit.
It was so
You
funny
need to
because I was
quit.
sitting there and I was like, I felt like that was an interesting little fun fact. It's not like I talked about the fact that you can't tell beaver men from beaver women because their genitalia is so well
Mhm.
hidden, and you have to tell
It's
it
very
through like
complex.
you have to like smell or taste their
They have
secretions
scent glands, and they actually used to use some of the secretions from their glands
in
to,
food.
yeah, like vanilla-ish flavoring. And there's a
Yes.
common misconception that that is still used. It is not still used.
They said it's sometimes used in some things, but not like in a usual
Well, the
use.
thing
Like
is,
it's
like,
for like, yeah.
it's too hard to harvest that now. People like it's don't be grossed out. Like, go get your vanilla shake. You're fine.
It's not beaver secretion.
It's not beaver
Um,
secretions. You're good.
Or just really freak your family out and be like, I heard that this is beaver secretion.
Oh, you
No,
like that shit,
um,
Grandpa? That is beaver secretions.
I recently told the story of my, like, because we were talking about like genitalia cake, like people who make like cake
Oh yeah,
for,
yeah.
and I always bring
Like
up the
parties and
story.
stuff.
I always bring up the story of like the year my sister got married was the year one of our best friends got married, and I made them both a penis cake. And then my mom used the leftover flesh tone frosting on my grandma's birthday cake. And my grandma
Brilliant.
was like, "Why is it this color?" And we all just kind of froze. And my mom was like, "Ah, it's just old frosting, mom." And I like looked up at my aunt and mouthed the word penis cake. And we all like were trying to hold in laughter because my grandma totally called out that it was flesh toned.
Just like, ew.
Sorry, we're on a tangent because we're talking about beavers. Um,
Beavers, yes.
but yeah, I
You
learned
mentioned genitalia. It's connected.
it's connected. But yeah, the beavers, you learn a lot about them. We used to eat their secretions. I would say that the book, like, he definitely is more environmental. He thinks beavers have a very specific place in the world, but he also talks to people who believe in trapping and ethical trapping versus just needing to trap beavers because they're rodents. And he kind of runs the full gamut. But he kind of comes down on the side of like environmentalism and things. I will say in my
Yeah.
book club, it was very funny because most of the time, the first like 15 minutes, I was traveling, so I had to call in, was mostly them just talking about like, have you ever seen a beaver? Where have you seen a beaver? And so it was very funny, very environmental. So like, I mean, go listen to it. It's interesting to read a book on beavers, but
hmm hmm
and then another book I listened to was Real Americans by Rachel Khong. This was a very interesting book. I had actually gotten it on NetGalley a really long time ago and then just finally got around to reading it. It came out in 2024, so that tells you how
Okay.
long it's been on my list. But it is a book about this, like, we kind of meet this woman named Lily, and she's in the Y2K era. It's around 9/11 because like it plays a pivotal role in this.
hmm
And she kind of has this like a little bit of an aimless life, and she falls head over heels with this one man. And then all of a sudden, we like a third of the way through, we get put into Lily's son's life and we learn about his life. And then in the background, we kind of have like her mom's ancestry, and it's about these three people and their life, and like it's a very interesting look because her mom is an immigrant, and she emigrated during a very explosive time in uh, China, and so it's very much about like she doesn't know much about her mom's life before she came to
hmm
America, but she knows that her mom is disappointed in the woman she is. And then we have like her son who is very white presenting, and he doesn't really understand why his mom's so protective over him, and he wonders about where he came from and why she kind of has kept secrets from him. So it's a lot about like generational trauma and
Sure.
how and very much about like the immigrant story of, you come to America, you expect better for your children, but what does better mean? And what does it mean to be a success? And like, what does it mean to come from a broken family? Or what does it mean to like want to build a better life for the
hmm
next generation? And I thought it was a very interesting novel. There were parts that worked for me. There were parts that I thought were a little too easy to like have the sudden shift and changes that came up. But overall, I thought it was a very effective novel. I really liked the audiobook. There was one narrator who wasn't my favorite, but overall, it was really good, and I enjoyed it. And it's definitely one people should check out, especially like her mom fled during a cultural revolution, and so you do get to learn a
hmm
little bit more about that. And I wasn't as aware of that time in China, and so it was interesting to kind of see that perspective through a female scientist who, is like working in the 70s and is a very smart and, woman who has to make some hard decisions in her life on how she can survive. So, very interesting.
There's a couple things that stood out to me when you were talking about that. And the first one was like you saying like defining better, what better actually means. And I
Mm,
think that that's really fascinating, actually. But I think that that was a good way to kind of frame that in a what does better mean rather
yes.
than like, is this actually better or like being more definitive about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that this kind of sounds like something that I would be interested in just because I'm interested in tragic family
Yeah,
generational
you would
trauma
get
stuff.
this. So
So I would dig it. But I do like that theme of defining better and digging into what actually makes a situation better for the next generation.
yeah.
But the other thing that I like that you said, that this wasn't necessarily a theme, but when you were kind of getting into your criticism, you said that you thought that it was too easy in
Hmm.
spots. And I think that that's a very valid criticism, that like a lot of books, I should be using that more when I'm criticizing books, because I'll say things like it just didn't work for me, or it just didn't make sense. But I think you saying like it was too easy, and I think that that's actually very valid for a lot of the issues that I have with certain books, where
Yeah.
authors will write it in a certain way that feels like it was taking the path of least resistance, and it's like,
Yes.
would it actually work out this way? I don't think so. It seems it seems like that was far too simple. So I do
Yes.
like that. Those two things like stood out to me when you were talking about that, because I was like, I'll probably dig this book. And also I think that's a really valid like way to criticize something, by saying that it's kind of taking the easiest path.
That's I there are certain things where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a really good reframing because I
Hmm.
was recently again on TikTok. Oh, I'm sorry. I just kicked my dog on accident. Hi, honey. I'm sorry.
Known
Where
animal abuser.
um where a podcaster, Caleb, was talking to, oh gosh, I forget her name, but Jordan, she's a comedian and
Okay.
she's on Netflix all the time. But she was like, I recently watched one of your things where apparently he talks to himself when he's in his apartment and he's like, oh, the kitchen's a mess. And that's okay. And she was like, you saying, and that's okay at the end of every sentence was like life changing. Cause I was just sitting there like, that's just being kind to yourself. And I'm like, oh yeah, that is nice to like reframe it as like, I feel overwhelmed and that's okay.
Hmm.
Like, but yeah, I do think sometimes like books feel a little too easy. And I think you would definitely vibe with this book because it also takes a sharp look at like affluence and like being
Hmm.
incredibly wealthy and what that
Yeah,
means when
I would
compared
dig
to
that.
others. So definitely recommend checking out that. And it's a good audiobook. So check out the audiobook. But and then watching I'm still watching Veronica Mars. It's fun to go back.
Hmm.
It's just so easy to let it wash over you of these high school dramas of kids where you're like that wouldn't happen. Um
Did
and
you ever used to watch like shows like that though as a high schooler and think like, my high school sucks?
yes. Or like, oh gosh, I just wish my parents understood how adult I am. Where like I'm watching it
Yeah.
now as a 35-year-old woman, question mark. And in the season finale of season one, someone like looks at Veronica's father and they're like, you're a good dad. And I was like, is he? I actually think he needs better boundaries. I would disagree with that assessment. Like,
Us watching Riverdale anytime we were
yeah.
like, these people suck.
Yeah, I was just like, no. And then a weird thing that I'm gonna admit on the podcast, one of the funniest things I do is I scroll on TikTok, and sometimes you get on certain TikToks where you're
That
like,
is a funny thing.
many people watch this, but I don't talk about it enough. But I am going to talk about it because I am enjoying it. There
Okay.
is a TikTok person who just does little skits of herself in a wig, and she plays different characters of a mom without boundaries and her two
Mm,
children raising children. And I have
that sounds like
gotten
a rough hang.
and well, right now the son has gone no contact with her and she's not handling it well. And she's in therapy, but it's a question on how effective the therapy is done. And right
Mhm.
now there is a drama playing out on TikTok where her daughter is having the first birthday for her child. And you find out that she had separate birthday parties for him and for the mom, and she just discovered it. And it's called Shauna the Mom. They are on YouTube. You
Okay.
could watch this.
Okay.
And it's just very dramatic acting from this woman named Shauna about a family that does not exist, and I'm enjoying it.
Amazing.
I love watching these skits. I do watch them on YouTube at 2 times the speed because it's faster. Um, but she does a really good job, and you should watch them on YouTube so she gets more money. So
Have you found the creator? So my coworker was showing me this and it was very funny to me. There's a creator on TikTok who makes like commercials using Sims, and
no.
like recreates commercials and makes like fake shows and stuff like that. They made a lot of like HGTV type style shows, and but like one of them that my coworker showed me was incorporating like the characters from What We Do in the Shadows into
Oh my
this
God.
HGTV style commercial, like
That's
promotion
amazing.
for that show. And it's Sims characters, but it's very funny. And she knew that I like What We Do in the Shadows, so she was showing that to me, and I very much cackled
You will have to send
seeing
those
it.
to me because that sounds very funny.
I'll
No,
have to
but I
get
do.
the creator's name because I'm not sure who it was.
I do sometimes get on these where I'm like watching random skits, and people often find out that someone is like ends up being a Trump supporter. I will say, like, a lot of times you can tell by the energy and their hair if they voted for Trump. I do not think Shauna the mom does that. But
Okay.
another TikToker who I enjoy very much, and I'm sure they post on YouTube, her name is Alyssa Disney Travel, and she's just reading comment sections on Disney Facebook groups. And they get wild. And I said, like, today you could tell she was feeling spicy because she posted one where they were like, they closed one of the parks for a cast member event. This is rude and unprofessional. Why would they do this? And she like looks at the screen and she's like, because they make the magic and they earned it.
Hmm.
Like, she apparently does like she helps plan trips at no cost to the like customer, but she
Okay.
gets like payment from Disney or something through it. So she
Okay.
like helps people get their dream vacation and things like that. But
Awesome.
she does all
I will
of
say, as
that.
someone who was recently at Disney, like all the world's respect to the cast members. They are
Yes,
all so good and caring and helpful. Like they all deserve a party. They all get
exactly.
a day.
So she
Stop
uh
complaining, white women. I know it's you.
uh
I know
and
it's
there's
us.
this
Stop it.
we it's me. Hi. I'm the
You're embarrassing
problem,
us
baby.
again.
But yeah.
Stop it.
No. But yeah, I'm enjoying Shot of the Bomb and Alyssa Disney Travel. Those are two very
Yeah.
fun people who have good vibes on TikTok. And I am slowly just rotting my brain on TikTok and I need to stop. So with
Fair
that
enough.
said, Laura, should we dive in to the Heavenly Sword?
Heavenly Sword. Let's do it.
Uh, so I want to caveat this at the beginning of the plot breakdown. This is a very epic fantasy novel, and there are a
Hmm.
lot of side quests, which, as we talked about with the author during her interview, is very important to the style of novel that this is. However,
Sure,
it
sure.
is hard to highlight all of them. So if I skip over your favorite portion of the novel, or if I skip a
There's
side
a
quest,
lot
it's
going on, honestly.
yes, there's so much going on. So I do apologize if I run over your favorite part. You can mention it to me or come talk to us about it over on the Discord. We are
This is a
happy to do.
summary. We're not
Yes.
going through the book page by page. That's not
Yes.
happening here. This is almost a 500-page book. It's 450 pages. So, like, we can't go through every single detail. And we don't do that with any of the other books we cover. We're
No.
just using that as a caveat that there are
Yeah.
so many things
And
happening
I'm
here.
doing
And
it with
it's
this one
very
especially
complex
because
fantasy.
I also want to highlight the fact that it is very important to the overall storytelling of the novel.
Yes.
So, if you want to read the side quest characters, like
Hmm.
definitely grab the book. So,
Yes.
um, but in chapter one, we meet Sayer, who is
Hmm.
a young girl, and she's being trained in martial arts by her father,
Hmm.
who she calls Ba,
Father Ba
and her foster brother, Bingong.
Bingham,
He is
who
trying to
is an
teach.
who is in archery, right?
Yes, he's into archery, and Ba is trying to teach them to utilize their chi as their best energy and using it as a force,
Hmm.
especially with Sayer, who can use her chi to get a better force to fight as a woman against brute strength or get, she is a very slight woman, and so she
Yes.
has to trust on her internal force to be able to fight
Hmm.
against people when it comes to strength. Um,
Which makes sense when someone is smaller that they would have to utilize different
yeah.
techniques.
We also find out that she has a somewhat complicated relationship with her dad. He tends to keep things from her. She says he's often doing his best, but he is
There's a
not.
lot of patriarchying.
Yes. But she also notes that like he does his best with a lot of things. He helped her mom through her mother's sickness, before she
Hmm.
lost her, but he doesn't know how to act as an actual like father figure to her often. They
Well, and
are,
it's an interesting thing too, because like even Sayer's name has a lot of deeper meaning
yes.
in it. So they have a complex relationship where I think Sayer feels like she isn't living up to the expectations that her father had for a child because
Hmm.
he likely wanted a boy.
Yes.
And then he's putting a lot of hopes and dreams into her. And
Hmm.
maybe
And we
she's
find out
not
that
feeling
she's
like she's
incredibly
living up to them.
important. Yeah. And he
Hmm.
knows that. And so he's pushing her in certain ways. So they are also struggling with hard times. There's famine
Yes.
going around. People are struggling to eat. And Sayura wants to help with this. She wants to go out hunting like the men. So
Hmm.
one day she does go out hunting. She also during this time is considering the fact that she loves the moon and how her
Yeah.
mother said she always craved it more than mother's milk.
Hmm.
While she is out, she is almost attacked by a boar, but she is saved by a man named Sanbao.
Sunbow.
Uh,
Sunbow.
we we learn that he is a eunuch who is
Hmm.
a personal advisor to the Prince of Yan, who is also pretty much a slave at the end of the
Yes.
day. And he
Hmm.
is sending Sanba to work with Master Zhang in the mountains on his martial arts. We found out that Monk Yao put in a kind word for Sanbao.
Yes.
She knows of the prince, and we hear rumors that he is not a good man.
Hmm.
But Sun Bao gives her a book on qi and the secrets of Naizhang, a
Because
martial
wasn't
arts practice.
so Samba was a slave, but wasn't there like a war that he was orphaned in and then
Yes,
became a slave through that? Okay.
yes, a lot of murdered parents due to the war
Yes.
and due to just saying that you were against the emperor. So,
Hmm.
he is studying with martial arts because he is gifted in it, but he has this book for her. He recognizes who her father is and says like he's a
Hmm.
very powerful man. And so they part ways. She shuts herself up in her room and starts studying. She ends up like putting herself to bed for a month to like work on these energies and figure out how to utilize them. And
Hmm.
we find out that Binong was also taken in after his parents were
Orphaned. Hmm.
murdered or they were executed for selling poisonous snacks due to a court person's son dying of food poisoning. So it wasn't poisoned, but it was people
Hmm.
who were blaming them for the death of someone higher up than them. And then
So like a lot of people think that Benyang is a tongue,
yeah,
one of the tongues. Yeah.
yeah.
And it
And
was just basically that they gave him their family name to kind of shield him.
yes, they didn't want people to find out what his family's life was. Like, they're
Hmm.
just like, if we say that he's one of us, he is protected and that is
Hmm.
safer for him. So, we also find out more of the Prince of Yan, who is Judi and pretty much evil.
The
He
worst.
he was a consort's son, so he is bypassed for the crown prince
Hmm.
selection based on his own upbringing. But overall, the emperor is a harsh man, and he has let areas fall into ruin due to Mongol uprisings and him trying
Yes.
to keep people in control. We also find out that Ba is the leader of the White Lotus Society, which is like a secret society who
Hmm.
is trying to help build up people in martial arts training so that when there is a coming war, they can help fight against the powers that be. Um,
Hmm.
and they want to Sayer wants to join, and it is very nice where Binong is like, yeah, we're trying to get you ready for it. Like,
Hmm.
your dad wants you to do that. And Ba tells them that he's sending them to work with Master Zhang in the mountains,
To be
thousands of
apprentices.
miles away. He's doing this as a favor, and the kids are both going to work there for him. So
Hmm.
Binong also takes his time to learn from Sanbao's book, and they all plan and prepare to leave for the mountains. But before Sayir leaves, she is visited by a sprite named Kai, who reveals to her that she is the reincarnation of Chung-yi of the Moon Palace.
The Sayer is.
Sayir, yes. The Queen Mother rules all of the female goddesses, so that includes Chang'e, and
Hmm.
she wants to send Kai to help Sayir on her journey. She gives her a magic peach to help in life or death situations, and she bears it at home just in case she needs it in the future.
Hmm.
We find out that Bin Hong and her father knew about her reincarnation, which is why they are training her. And we also find out that she is betrothed to Lin San, who is the her celestial counterpart, Hu Yi.
Yes.
And this he has been kind of her partner throughout time, although through
Hmm.
questionable reasons.
Yeah.
But they must be together since last time their relationship was cut short. So she kind of doesn't really have an option than to marry him as this reincarnated person.
Right.
We also do find out that in this world, virginity is very important for
Mhm.
Sayer because it helps reinforce some of her powers. It's kind of like I looked at it
Like a
in my
purity thing.
yeah, I also looked at it in my Catholic mind as, and like not to compare because I do understand that it's different, but
Sure.
like there are people who dedicate themselves to God, they are nuns or sisters,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
did see it kind of as that, as like you're dedicating yourself to the power and
To the
your,
practice of
yes,
this.
and to the practice of this. And it's very important and
Hmm.
almost a religion of some sorts. So,
Yeah, I
um,
don't think that's a one-to-one comparison. I think you're fair though in like trying to draw similarities from that. Yeah.
yes, yeah, definitely not a one-to-one comparison, but
Right, right, right.
it will be important as the plot goes on
Yes.
that she
Yes,
is
yes.
virginal, though. So, as they get close to the mountains, an eagle attacks Sayer. Binong saves her, and we find out that it is the prince's eagle. He
Hmm.
threatens to keep Sayer as punishment, and he almost whips Binong. But we also realize that Sayer probably has a prior connection to the prince as she sees the image of the sky wolf in
Well, there
him.
had to be a reason that he attacked. Like he's not just gonna randomly attack people.
I mean, yeah, that's very
I
fair.
mean, he does
Uh,
suck, but that much,
I
who
mean, it could have
knows?
been like this pretty girl, and I would
Yeah,
like
could have.
to, But Master Zhang does intervene, and he takes the two to his home and stops the
Hmm.
whipping. He introduces them to Sanbao, and Binong takes a disliking to him due to his connection with the evil prince that he just met.
Yes.
And that night, Kai visits Zaire and takes her to the Grand Empress. We get a breakdown of the pantheon and the goddesses and immortals. They discuss the fact that
Hmm.
the prince is the sky wolf who has been punished for raping two fox nymphs. He was
Yes.
sent back to Earth because of this to kind of like atone for his sins.
Hmm.
And there are people speaking on his behalf there. There are people who are saying like, "Oh no, it was
It's almost like a
misconstrued," and
trial,
yeah.
really, that they're all trying to be like, oh, well, you didn't stand up for me, and well,
Hmm.
I did this. And it's a lot of politics kind of going back and forth of like, should we punish the Skywolf for what he's done?
Correct. And Sayer is supposed to fight against his menace and kind of manage it. And we found out that Chang'e has a soft spot for the Sky Wolf. So
Hmm.
Sayer kind of has that in her as well. And she recognizes that.
Hmm.
But she sees what may be kind of a memory of the Sky Wolf seducing Chang'e. And it's a very questionable scene where he is
Yeah.
being very forceful and a weaving maid interrupts them. And then a man who has kind of been, his name has been dropped. His name is Nesha. We
Hmm.
find out that he has to get Chang'e back to Earth. So
Hmm.
Sayer kind of wakes up the next day discombobulated. She starts her first day at the monastery. And we also meet Yinho, a foster of Zhang, who is helping with their lessons.
Hmm.
We also get a warning that Bing Hong has a lot of anger inside of him, and Zhang is kind of like, you have to be careful because you cannot fight in anger all the time. And he doesn't understand why she feels connected to Sanbao. Uh,
Right.
we find out that Yinho also lost his parents, and Zhang intervened to raise him safely. We also get a training montage as Sayer thinks to her
Hmm.
memories and what the prince may know about her. She's working on getting stronger, and she starts having dreams where the prince is pretty much, I said debauching her, like it's very sexual in nature.
Hmm.
He's like ridding her of her clothes, doing all these things. And we find out he likely hexed her and therefore
It kind
knows
of
who she
reminded me a
is.
little bit of like the way that like Randall Thor was having these dreams that were like Lanfear messing with his dreams a little
Yeah,
bit. You know what I
I
mean?
think that that's a very fair and apt
Those type of vibes.
comparison. Yeah. And so she does get a talisman to help combat this being put into someone else's dreams. And we also
Hmm.
find out that Zhang has been asked to help the emperor, but he is denying help. And Sayer's catching the feels for Sanbao.
Hmm.
We also get like again, it's like at this training montage where Yinho shows like acrobatic inner strength using his
Yeah.
chi, and Sayer is gaining a natural affinity for it. She also has a an almost sexual experience with San Bao outside for all to see, and Bin
Hmm.
Ong does come upon them, and he stops it, and
I mean, he like gets upset about it and is like, Sambo, get out of here.
yeah, he like kind of casts him aside, and Sun Bao flees after this, and he drops
Hmm.
a note where we find out that he has been working for the prince and trying to get
Yep.
close to Sayer to cause her to lose her virginal strength. So,
Mm-hmm.
and
Which is kind of devastating that this is like a
yeah,
weird plot that
well,
they have against her.
and like for the rest of the novel, she's often like counteracting that because she did have strong feelings for Sanbao, and she
Mm-hmm.
is sure that they have a connection, and it's difficult because
Well, well, and
Binong
it's
is upset by it, and like yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot going on.
it's a lot, I think, for Sayer too, because she's just like trying to reconcile these feelings of like betrayal
Yeah. Well, and as all of this is
and
going
self-worth
on,
too.
yeah, and as this is going on, Sayur does grow in strength, and Zhang takes her to meet his granddaughter, a woman named Pearlie, who has
Hmm.
dedicated herself to be a hermit in order to strengthen her powers and her chi.
Hmm.
She is assisted by a woman named Yusu, who comes to Sayur the next day and informs her that Pearlie has been captured by the prince in order to convince Zhang to join the prince's side. The master takes them all to meet with the prince, and a fight ensues after he refuses to give Pearlie back. But they are
Hmm.
able to get away and go on the run. They enter into a secret tunnel structure through Pearlie's home, but at first they can't find the key. They enter through other means and go to get some important artifacts to help them, including a jade piece and a sword. So,
Is this like the stone door
yes,
part? Okay.
yeah. And while they're in there, you kind of find out there's like hidden tunnels and rooms and things like
Hmm.
that. And they stop to rest for the night. And there, Sair overhears Pearlie, or well, right before this happens, Pearlie and Sayer are talking, and she talks about her training, and she appears much younger than she looks. She's a little bit
Hmm.
older, um, but she worked with two men who became monks, and one of them we find out is Sayer's grandfather, and
Hmm.
one of them is Monk Yao from earlier in the book, who works
That
for
we
the prince
previously met.
now.
Hmm.
And so uh she actually was in love with Sayer's grandfather, but because she had
Hmm.
dedicated herself to her craft, he decided to become a monk, but then he left and got married and later became a
Hmm.
monk. And this is pretty much news to Sayer. She's kind of like, I just thought my grandfather had been dead for a long time. I thought
Yeah.
he like um kind of there's like hints that he may have left the family and like no one knew what was going on. And so she's just very confused by all this. But then we discover Sayur overhears a fight between Yusu and Pearlie, and we find out that Yusu was also in love with Sayur's grandfather, Monk Fashan,
Hmm.
and Yusu blames Pearlie for taking him away from her. There's some back and forth, and Pearlie is like so calm in this moment where she's like, "Look, he just didn't love you. Like, he didn't want to be with you." And she's like
Hmm.
trying to be nice about it, but also be like firm to like
Yeah.
not play into Yusu's like uh, a little
Well,
bit of
she's
yeah,
trying to bait her,
yeah.
basically.
And Sayer tries to find Zhang before bed, but doesn't get to him. And the next day, we find out he fled with Pearlie, and
Hmm.
Yusu likely went after them. He tells Sayer to take Binong to start a new life, and they decide to head back home with Yinho in tow.
Yes.
Uh, on the way back home, they find out that Sayer's betrothed is picking up concubines. Great.
Oh.
Binong is worried, but Sayer knows that she will not have a sexual relationship with Lin
Hmm.
Sun because she has no interest in that. They
Right.
also run into a monk who is a fugitive, and they do discover that it is Sayer's grandfather, who she believed to be dead. Um,
Which was an interesting twist.
yeah, and it was also interesting because she was like, "Well, maybe my dad like just didn't know how to tell me," and we find out that is very much
Hmm.
true.
Hmm.
But they do speak to him, and they find out that Zhang and Pearlie are doing okay and fighting against the Emperor's empire. They plan to help her father with the White Lotus sect and group. And so
Hmm.
she talks to her grandfather, tries to get him to come with them, and he's like, "Oh, I couldn't possibly." And as they get ready to leave the next day, a woman asks them to take her son with them so he can fight along, and they
Hmm.
agree to take him with them. They disguise Sayer as a man as they travel throughout the country, witnessing like kind of showing off their skills as time goes on to like get
Yeah.
money and get food and lodging as they moved. Yusu does overtake them, and she robs them of the sword that they got earlier in the book, and Sayer wonders why it's so important. We also find out that Yusu uh, has this agent, like this chemical agent that paralyzes people, and they do have an antidote for it, but this
Well,
paralyzing
it's like a
agent comes,
powder or something, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, and it comes back a lot because like they
Yeah.
she hits along on accident the first time, so
Hmm.
um and I did laugh at this because like Benong is like, could you ask Kai about the sword? And Sayur goes, I forgot about my little sprite
I
friend.
thought that was funny too, because it's like, wait a minute,
Oh my gosh, I have this helpful little friend. Of course
why
I'll
haven't
talk
I
to
been
them.
utilizing this?
And so she does talk to Kai, and they have this philosophical discussion about if she must marry, and we find out that she
Hmm.
does. We also know that Neja, who is close to the prince, and he's earlier, he was one of the people in her visions. Even though he's close with the prince, he's not actually close. He's kind of like a double agent.
Hmm.
Neja harmed the green dragon, like he killed his third son, and he offered up his own body for his family in order to keep the peace against the green dragon, which is this deity. So he's
Yeah.
paying off in debt, and that's why he has to work with the prince, but he is good. And so they head on over and they meet up with General Tai, who is helping fight against the emperor and all of
Hmm.
the stuff going on. And so they
Hmm.
meet with him and they immediately join in the fight. They overcome, but they get up close to the prince who is about to like besiege them pretty much, and his horse
Yeah.
runs away, which they know he will see as an insult. We also find out that Pearlia is okay, but she is captured and she's being tortured by the
Hmm.
prince via Yusu. But Yusu gave the sword over to Neja, so it is protected.
Yes.
They go and they do save Pearlie. They then reunite with Sayur's father and discuss her impending marriage with Lin's son. She meets with his mother. She does like the mom. The mom's pretty pragmatic of like, yeah, my son
Hmm.
might be the worst, but he's not like the worst worst. And she gets kind of a good relationship with his mother moving forward. And we have a mix of preparing for war and a wedding, both battles in different ways. She
I
is,
mean, it is kind of this unique, like, back and forth between these things happening, honestly,
yeah.
where it's like, I did question whether or not this was like tricky to like write these things going on while there's like so many high stakes political and like wars happening.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, and she
And
does
to
have to
just,
like,
but I get it that this happens where it's like, yeah, we have to move forward with this marriage. Like, okay, yeah,
yeah, it's the time, and he
people still get married.
insists. Yeah, and so they do get married, and she is like very blatant in the like, I do not see this as a sexual relationship. We will not be
Hmm.
consummating this, and he does try to force the issue,
Yeah.
but she uses her chi and fights him off. Uh, Others are horrified by his actions, but she's like, or by his actions, but she's like, no, I expect to never see him again. The marriage is done. We are supposed to be married to get through this celestial understanding, but once that's done, I'm kind of free to do what I want to do. And so
Hmm.
it is very political for the gods
Yeah.
as well as for the humans.
Yeah.
So instead, she does focus on the White Lotus sect. They are training others and getting everyone ready for battle. And so as we get ready for the war to unfold, we get some understanding that Zhu Di has become uh emperor, like his
Yeah.
the next in line had died. He
Hmm.
came up and he would do anything for power. He would rather break the country than not be in power.
Hmm.
People know that General Tai will be upset with the announcement that he is now emperor, and so they go to see him, but they realize he's been captured. She
They kind of think though that they're like they're between a rock and a hard place where they're just like, well, we can't do anything now. Like we're just gonna have to like accept this and be like,
Yep.
okay, we're bowing to you.
But as she's going to get General Tai, she does run into Sunbao, who has captured her grandpa, and confronts him about how he treated her. He kind of gives that like, look, if you just understand my side of things, you would totally be on my side. Like
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
there are things where it's like, obviously it is complex. He has been
Yeah.
the prince's slave. Like I think you can definitely recognize that. But there is
Hmm.
almost a like, I couldn't possibly have gone against him, even though he sent me away. Because she's like earlier in the book, she was like, you could ask to be sent away. You could be doing this. You could be
Hmm.
doing this. And you could tell he like doesn't do any of those things. And he kind of
Right.
just lets it happen. But um, she does beg him to let her grandfather go. And again, he's kind of like, it's out of my hands. As he holds the
Yeah.
chains, it's out of my hands. There is an attack, and she does end up kind of getting the upper hand. She threatens Sanbao and gets him to let her and her people get away, but she is
Hmm.
wounded during the battle with an arrow. And as she runs off, we have hit the 50% mark and the end of this episode. What happens next? Is Sayur okay? We will never know. Uh,
We will find out next week.
We'll find out next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for following along with us. I can't
Yeah,
wait to see the end of this. Did I already read it? Yes, I did. But
we've already gotten there.
it's already in the bag, guys. So,
We
but
are prepared.
you will need to join us next week
Yes.
and make sure that you read the next half of the book, chapters
Hmm.
19 through 37 of this book. And
The
we,
Heavenly Sword by
The
Alice
Heavenly Sword.
Poon.
And, if you like what you're hearing so far, please rate, review, and subscribe. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing is an excellent way to get others to join in the conversation with us, and we would
Get them in
greatly
the mix.
appreciate it. Or you can follow along at OWWRpod.com or OWWR Pod on
Hmm.
Instagram and Blue Sky, the majority of places where we live, or on
We're
our
also over
Discord.
on YouTube.
Yeah, we are on YouTube. You can find our Discord. Check us out on YouTube. We want to build up our subscribers over there and people who watch us
Hmm.
over there, and we're gearing up to post more videos in the future.
For
So
sure.
definitely keep an eye out over there. We have some great things coming down the line after we get
Yeah,
done with
some
this.
awesome author interviews on the
So
way
we have
and
so many good
some cool
things.
bonuses coming up. So we are excited.
Yeah. And you'll have to join us next week for more of the Heavenly Sword.
And thanks for listening today.
Bye.
Bye.